Guys, it's Jukka from Omnium Gatherum, and you're watching and listening to RichardMetalFan.
Hey, what's up, guys? New episode of Richard Metal Fan interviews here, calling from Zoom, and I'm here with Jukka Pelkonen from the almighty Omnium Gatherum. So, how are you doing today, Jukka?
Hey, I'm doing good, actually. Just got home from a little bike ride, maybe some 20 kilometers, 25 kilometers.
Well,
Being busy with my cats, enjoying Sunday.
nothing wrong with that man.
Yeah.
So, kind of the format is I want to talk about like your musical history and sort of do a rundown of your discography, but take it back to young Yuka. So, growing up in Finland, what were like the first bands that got you into metal? What made you want to be a vocalist?
Well, like internationally, I would think like maybe Megadeth, Metallica, Iron Maiden, Sepultura, uh, Anthrax, little bit later, Pantera, Morbid Angel. But with Finnish bands, I think it was Amorphis and Sentenced and Stratovarius
All great
and
bands.
yeah, Thai Serpent at some point. Um, Enochian Crescent at one point. There were a lot of bands. Like, I was into metal in general, so to name a few, there you go.
Awesome. And of course, doing my research, I believe your first band I want to talk about is Elenium. So tell me about that because not a lot of people talk about Elenium.
Well, yeah, it was indeed. Well, wasn't my first band, but it was my first metal band. We had this kind of band thing going in like elementary, but that was just more like well, it was heavyish, but we did a lot of covers. Maybe the heaviest cover we did like maybe some Metallica or something like that. So basically, it was not a metal band. But Elenium was, yeah, it was the first formed back in like originally 1995 when we were like 13 to 15-year-old kids. And uh, well, it was kind of like we just decided that we want to make our own music, and it was kind of like we made some demos like 90, 95, 96, 97, 98. We got a record deal like pretty soon, but only for a single and stuff like that from this little tiny label from Finland. And then we made this Side of Paradise single. And then we got a deal from Rage of Achilles in the like early 2000s. At the same time when OG got a deal from them and Amoral also, and Kiwas and a couple of bands from Finland. Elenen was that kind of band that it was more progressive stuff than OG. OG has had its like progressive elements, but Elenen is more like into the deep end of that kind of stuff, and I think it was never for like I think it was really really like I would say underground stuff in a
Yeah.
sense. We
Yeah.
made two albums.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was listening to some of those like early kind of like demos in preparation for these interviews. Because of course like those that demo from '96 and even this side of Paradise, both the demo and of course the EP as well, which both versions kick ass. And I've been love like the promos you did from '99, 2000, 2001, which of course like the 2000 and 2001 demos, which I've actually had interviewed Marcus, and he was telling him because of course he played with them with you, and little did you know that
Yeah.
you would end up later on working with Marcus.
Yeah. But it was a good group. We had a good chemistry going in a sense, and it was fun. But for some reason or the other, back in 2009, I think we decided to call it quits just because there was no sense of continuing that in that form, and it never like resurfaced in a way. I sometimes think about that there could have been a chance to make that band work again or start over or something like that. But maybe like hindsight is always 2020. But I think I have different kinds of opinions about that. But mainly I think it was a good run with those two albums and with the promos and stuff. And I'll leave it to that maybe.
Yeah, yeah, because those two full-length albums, Forgiving, Forgetting, and Cotton Wheel, were pretty good. Good. And of course, I know, like it said on Metal Archives, that the band stated that they're on hiatus in 2011, even though there hadn't been any activity from them since after Caught in the Wheel.
Mm-hmm. True that.
Yeah. And then of course, 2006, you ended up joining up Omnium Gatherum. So how did you end up joining the band?
Well, it was like I had no idea that they were like split with their vocalist Antti. I was just doing Elenium stuff, and like we were doing new material, and I was like, and then one day Marcus just called me and you want to come over and I'll send you some songs. Do you want to do some lyrics and some arrangements for these songs? And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
I can do that. And
Yeah.
and like it just basically started like that.
Yeah.
Nothing like major or nothing like nothing planned in advance. I think it was like spur of the moment in a sense for them to think about me as a potential vocalist for the band. I
Yeah.
would think so. We never really talked about it. We've talked about it like like how it happened, and it's basically Marcus says the same thing. Like it's just one day he was like, okay, I'm gonna call Jukka. We've done some gigs together. I featured in one of their promos and stuff like that. So why not?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think
So it's
that's
kind of like a
basically,
no-brainer.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
So it's like, no, like you and Marcus are friends, and like, and how did you end up meeting Marcus, by the way?
Well, I think it was back in maybe 2000. I knew of Omnium Gatherum before that, of course, but like I think like Elenium's Johannes and our keyboardist and Mikko, the drummer at the time, went to see Omnium Gatherum in Kotka, and then they like it. I think they gave like some promos, and OG gave some. I think like some of their demo. I don't remember which one, but they basically met, and I think he was asked to come and play a solo in this one song, which I recall to be called Slumber Towards Infinity, if I'm not mistaken, because it was so long ago. But basically, he came to the studio. We were recording that promo stuff and played a solo. And like, after that, in a couple of years, we did some gigs together with OG, Amoral, and Elenium. So we got to hang around. Like we did gigs only in Finland, of course, back in the day, but like that was basically the story how we met.
Yeah. And so when you joined up on Gatherum, were you kind of like nervous, like joining the band? Because anytime with bands like change singers, there's always that thing of will it work or won't it work? Because I remember, like I always say the example with Iron Maiden, because when they kicked out Paul Di'Anno and then they brought in Bruce Dickinson, a lot of people were kind of worried, and then they put out Number of the Beast and it ends up being like one of the best metal albums of all time. So
Mm-hmm.
how is that like for you, like joining up with the band and stuff, and how has like the reception been like for the from the fans?
Oh well, I never really thought about it much. I was never like nervous or anything because I love to be on stage, and that was another opportunity for me to make like to do more gigs and do more shows and stuff like that. And my mask on stage is pretty confident, so I didn't like in that sense. I didn't. Of course, I thought about the fact that how would people receive like my contribution to the band, and basically, if I remember correctly, back in 2007 when we released Stuck Here on Snake's Way, I think the reception was like for my performance specifically mostly positive. Of course, there are people who say like we miss Antti stuff, and Antti was also a really like, this is my opinion, but really like inventive lyricist in a sense, and I can understand that people kind of miss that, but I didn't hear like much of like you shouldn't be in this band, that kind of stuff at all, because I took it pretty seriously, and like wanted to make the most of it and the best, try to perform as best as I can.
Awesome. And so tell me about making your first record with Omnium Gatherum, Stuck Here on Snake's Way. So what was the whole writing and recording process like, being that was like your first record with the band?
Well, basically it was we recorded in Kotka with Teemu Aalto, who has done a lot of our albums. I think like every single album before Origin, so a lot. So I met Teemu then, and he was really nice and professional and a really good guy to work with. And of course, those guys, we rehearsed a lot. Back in the day, we used to not, now we just kind of rehearse by ourselves, and then we do sessions, like couple of day sessions or longer sessions in a row, because everybody is an adult and so super busy. So back in the day, we rehearsed a bit more like as a group, and I think like, you know, we started to play together those songs in the summer of 2006, and we went to the studio like I would say October, November-ish 2006, and the album came out like in April the next spring. So like kind of basic process, because I really like the guys, like, you know, I'd never met the other guys like Aapo or Harri or Janne or Jarmo, which do not play in the band today, but they were playing back in the day.
Yeah.
When recording. So, and I really like those guys, and we like chemistry wise, we hit it off pretty decent. So it was kind of like I would say like productive in a sense, like, you know, they know what they wanted and I know what I wanted. So I think in that sense it was painless. Of course, there was a little bit of excitement about, like, because they knew that they were changing in a sense the style of Omnium Gatherum whilst inviting me to the concoction. So I can't speak for them, but I would say that they were kind of excited, and so was I.
Yeah, because I know Stuck Here on Snake Ways also has first album with also Oppo on keyboard. So did you meet him during the recording process, and what was your first
Yes,
impression of him?
well, I met, like, you know, yeah, exactly, like pre-production phase. I met up also.
You'd be like, "Hey, I'm Yuka. Hey, I'm Oppo. Nice to meet you." Yes.
Exactly. Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, but I think that's a great album, because especially like opening up with that acoustic intro, the snake in the way, then going right into C. I think it's definitely sounds like a great, the first time we ever hear your voice. And I definitely think it's like a great album from start to finish. Like, of course, into C, Bastardo, Undertaker, like all of them are kick-ass songs.
Yeah, it is. I would say like in a sense, it's kind of like a prototype of the thing that we were going. I thought the future album was gonna be, but it's also kind of like that, kind of like a test ground for a lot of things. For me, of course, being first, for Apo, of course, also, but also for the band as whole and the direction of the music that the band would like to maybe have. I think both like Stuck Here on Snake's Way and the Redshift are both kind of like that. Redshift, like, I think it represents more of the sound and of the style and of like OG what was coming in the like coming years.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I would call it a test ground, like a test area in a
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. When Stuck Here on Snake's Way came out, so of course with the touring, like for that, how were like the audience receptions like? Were they like, yeah, new singer? Or how was like the whole fan reactions?
I think in Finland, in the metal scene, people kind of like knew me already because of Elenium. We've been doing a lot of shows in Finland during the years, and of course they knew OG. And the reception was like, you know, I never go to apologize to the stage, so I never really gave them a chance to be other than like happy for the show, because, you know, I think like if you just don't like me as a singer of this band, then it's okay, but you cannot blame me me for the show not being something that you don't like, because I did, like, I would say I take it really seriously. After I'm having fun on stage, but I'm still taking it pretty seriously.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I want to be able to enjoy them. That's the first.
Yeah. And then of course the next album, The Redshift, pretty much came out a little over a year after Stuck Here on Snake's Way. Did you start writing for Redshift right after Stuck Here on Snake's Way came out?
Yeah, I think like we had the first demos like the next summer. Like summer 07, I think like the first demos for Redshift were like recorded then and rehearsed then. But it like, I think it came out like in fall of 2008, so we had a little bit time to make those songs and to come up with that album. So
Yeah. Yeah, it has some really great songs, especially like The Return. Definitely one of my favorite songs, Nail, Chameleon Skin, and
yeah,
has
I
some
like that
really great
album a lot.
lyrics.
Yeah, I like a lot. Like that album is something like, you know, I really can't say which is the best album of ours, but that particular album is something that I really enjoy to this day.
Yeah. And did you feel like more comfortable with that album compared to Stuck Here on Snake's Way in terms of like of course like the songwriting and lyrics and everything?
Yeah, of course, because I was more familiar with a lot of things. For first, of course, the my friends and my colleagues in the band, and secondly, with a group, I think like, you know, the more you play, the more you get like interconnected. In a sense, you start to realize that you are learning what is the chemistry like between the different players and the band as a whole. So in that sense, I felt like more comfortable and more sure myself and etc. So yes.
Yeah. And then of course, next album, New World Shadows, came out 3 years later in 2011. Did you really want to like take your time and sort of hone in your craft with New World Shadows?
Yeah, I think and after Redshift, like, you know, we started to tour a little bit more. Like so that also took some time, and we never like write stuff on tour. We're focused on touring, so we never write any new stuff whilst touring. So that may be one of the reasons why it took like a couple of years for New World Shadows to come out. Of course, we were also honing our craft in the sense that we really wanted to make like the OG sound more tight and more like we really started to think about what kind of music, like melody wise and like as like arrangement wise, what kind of music we want to make. So that might be the other reason also.
Yeah, and I think New World Shadows is definitely the most atmospheric Omnium Gatherum album, as well as the most diverse, especially vocally. Like the songs like The Distance sounds different than Deep Cold. That sounds different than Soldier Journey. So it's fair to say I feel like it's the most kind of like diverse Omnium Gatherum album.
Yeah, that is true. There's a lot of like, but I think like as a whole, still like, you know, there's a like this you can really feel the songs being connected to each other, like despite of the fact that they vary in a performance or like in that kind of style. It's one of the key elements of understanding that album also.
And then next up is Beyond, which I love that album. And I know, of course, you recently played it live at the 70,000 Tons of Metal cruise earlier this year, which I had the chance to witness that. So, how was that like playing that album in full, and how the idea of that come to play that album in particular?
Well. The first time we played that album as a whole was back in, I think, 2014 or 15, when we made two shows in Finland, which on those shows we played New World Shadows and Beyond, both albums as a whole. So that was the first time we played the Beyond as a whole, and then we like thought like back in 2023 that we're gonna do shows to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the album. but that kind of didn't happen because of a lot of reasons. But still, then we decided, okay, now we're gonna go to 70,000 tons. We've been on that beautiful cruise a couple of times before, so we thought that we're gonna do something special. And it was just in the beginning of 2024, so we kind of like threw it to the mix. So it's still kind of like 10th anniversary, not really, but still.
But
and
still
now we're gonna
11th
do it
technically.
Yeah, exactly. Technically, yeah, that is true. And we thought like we're gonna make a T-shirt and like the whole thing about it, and I think people really enjoyed it. So that was like really the best place maybe to play it for the first time in a long time as a whole album. Now we're gonna do it again in January when Inso is playing Shadows of the Dying Sun as a whole in Europe.
Yeah.
So we're gonna play Beyond.
Yeah, I
And
wish
I
that
think
was
that's
happening in the States. That would have been a badass.
Yeah, I know. I'm kind of excited about doing that. It's not a long run, but still, it's something special because both bands are playing the whole both of the albums as a whole, and also we got our like Texas guests there with Hinayana, which is also cool. That band is all right.
Cool. And so tell me about like playing like, of course, like, because I know you played like festivals, like you did the 70,000 Ton Smell, but then I saw you on like regular tours. So how different of it is to like playing on like a regular tour versus like a festival?
Well, festival is always like it's kind of like one shot basically. You go there, maybe you have 2 festivals in weekend, and when you're on a tour, you're in a different atmosphere because you're doing maybe 20, 25, 30 shows. So in that sense, it's really different. And of course, festival timetables are always really super busy and strict. Of course, on a tour we have a strict schedule also, but it's also different. And of course, festivals as places to play are super different to clubs or small halls or those kinds of things that we play on a tour basically. So there are differences, but of course in festivals, like atmospherically, it's nice because there are usually so many bands. Maybe a couple of bands we would like to see and stuff like that. So in that sense, it's also different. But like playing wise, I don't care if the stage is big or small. I always like I just love like I become a different person when I'm on stage, so I don't care. Of course, it's nice to have maybe a little bit more room to run around or stuff like that, but if the stage is smaller, I don't give a shit about that either. So
You just
in
want to
that sense,
play.
yeah, exactly. I want to play. I want to rock.
Yeah. And then of course the Beyond album cycle, I believe was like the first on that cycle you toured like America for the first time. I was actually was talking to Marcus about that. You did that tour with Darch and Cody, and I believe like the first show you ever played in North America was actually in my home state of Georgia. So tell me about like that experience, and what was it like playing in America for the first time?
Well, yes. Well, it was of course exciting, and that's one of those things that like usually comes to one's mind to be able to first of all play outside your own country, and of course like you always think about states like a cool place, and it would be nice to play there, and of course you think about, so in that sense it was exciting. But that was back in 2014, and we've been touring like a fair amount before that also, so we kind of knew it's going to be similar in like in Europe or in Asia, but there are like a little bit of differences here and there. And of course it was with Dark Tranquility, and we knew those guys from a couple of tours before, so that helped. And we had Ex Mortis there, of course, that was kind of like a cool package, so it also helped in like that first time experience. It helped with that a lot, so to have a like good and cool package. But of course it was the first time, so in that sense it's special.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that we've been able to tour America after that, like many times, and planning to come back. Of course, we love to play there. Nice
Yeah.
crowds.
Yeah. But tell me about like that first show, of course, at the Old Masquerade in Atlanta, Georgia. Because you remember.
Oh yeah. Well, of course, because it was the first one, some jitters of naturally, and it was the Old Masquerade.
Yeah, because you
So
remember like
so
the Old
so
Masquerade with when bands like load in their shit, they would always have like this little makeshift elevator that would come down and like load people and bands would like load it in. They would just like take
yeah,
it up to the
and
heaven stage.
yeah, and like the I remember this kind of door, which was like in a sense it was kind of hard to use in a sense, but there was this like little like a thing or trick to it to how to operate it. So that's one memory. Of course, like that's the first time in America we're like, okay, this is how it's gonna be. But it was great because the show was awesome. Like man, technical things are always technical things, and if the show's great, it doesn't matter at all. The new Masquerade, like
Yeah.
from that I gotta say, look, I kind of love that place
Yeah.
for many reasons.
Yeah, but you see, like they always have like those long ass hallways. It feels like almost like a maze. You could get like lost in there sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. But it's cool. I just
Yeah.
went like last time we played there in spring. There was Queensryche playing
Oh yeah, I
that
remember
same
Mark. I was actually
same
had
evening.
Marcus and Ate were telling me about it.
Yeah. So that was kind of cool. I like after our show, I snuck out and watched a couple of songs. I kind of like that kind of atmosphere that you have many like you have like an in, uh, inside venue, and you have still like many different stages and a lot of space. That's always cool.
Yeah, and they recently added a fourth stage called Altar, and they also have like food. Recently started selling food, so you can get like burgers or whatever from there.
Yeah, I love that kind of stuff that like the venue evolves into a good direction.
Yeah, they had that at the old spot, but when they moved to there, they didn't have it for any food there for a long time. You had to like go and get something.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I kind of give them props for that. That kind of like I
Yeah,
guess
so
going back to the roots.
it's progressing. So what do you think if you would have, because it's your kind of your neighborhood, if you had to compare, what would you say? Like, what are the pros and cons of the two places?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I don't know. I just thought I would think it's just like because like, in the old spot it feels like because you see like the heaven stage or like right below is the hell stage. You could see there's like people say like the word like the floor might cave in, but with the new spot it's just like all like one level.
Yeah, true that. But I kind of like this. I kind of like their style that they decided to call the different stages with the similar same names. I kind of like that because it's a continuation from the old place to the new.
Yeah. And then of course moving on to the next album, Gray Heavens. I like that album. So what was it like going from Beyond to Gray Heavens?
Well, for Beyond was like we really toured a lot after Beyond, and and it was a hard album in a sense to make a successor in a sense because it really is really has a good balance in general. But Grey Heavens was something like the working title was Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
That album like back in the day, and we wanted to make, but because Beyond is super melodic, like so we wanted to make something like of course Grey Heavens has a lot of melody too in a sense, but it has a more harsh like more like in your face feeling in many like in many respects. So it was exciting because for me and for the band, I think it's like the progression of the music in a sense. The music has to move forward in a way or another. Like
Yeah.
there's a repetition, of course, style wise. That's something that we want to do, and people like bands maybe have to do if you're not totally underground, super avant-garde, progressive vampire metal band, then you can do what kind of albums you like, but there's have to be continuation between albums. But we always want to add something different, and to have kind of like a new spice to the whole soup.
Yeah,
in a
so
sense.
try to like experiment with the Omnium Gatherum sound, but still maintain what makes Omnium Gatherum Omnium Gatherum.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, of course, then I want to talk about the next album, The Burning Cold. I like that album, and it has a special place because that was sort of like the album I discovered you guys on. I remember the first time I ever saw you guys. You did that tour in 2018 with, of course, our friends in Dark Tranquillity, Amorphous, and of course, Moonspell actually had like the poster right in the background there.
Oh yeah.
There, and I remember having like the VIP to meet all four bands, and that was a great tour. So, what was that whole like tour like?
It was really cool. Like, I love that package in a sense, four great bands. Like, I would go see, like, if I didn't play in Omnium Gathering, I would go see like that package, like playing somewhere live. In Finland, for sure, like, Moonspell, it's really like, I love their live performance. Like, they are just fucking great. And of course, DT does their stuff, and Amorphis, they are like, they are really certain, and Tommy is an excellent singer, and so I love that. I love that tour a lot.
Yeah.
Everything worked, and we had a lot of fun on that tour.
Yeah, and I think the Burning Coal, I feel like is a definite step up from Great Gray Heavens, especially like going from like the intro, the Burning, going right into God's Go First, which I think is a really great song. And then I love like Refining Fire, which has a lot of atmosphere and even like almost like a future vibe with Over the Battlefield. So I definitely feel like the Burning Cold's like definitely I would consider it kind of like Gray Heavens 2.0, but just more kind of like in your face, I guess, in a way.
Yeah, true that.
Yeah. Yeah, and then of course then you started touring for it for a little while, and then of course the certain virus that shall not be named happened, and then during that time did you start writing for what would eventually become Origin?
Yeah, basically we did.
Yeah.
Like, we had nothing else to do, so yeah.
Yeah.
It was a weird times, but like for me personally, it was time, like, people like, what I'm gonna do now, should I quit? Like, it was, for me it was quite the opposite. Like, are we gonna really have time because we can tour? Are we gonna have a lot of time and a good opportunity to make these songs as best as we can? And I
Yeah.
think you can hear in Origin, it's a really different kind of album in a sense, but it's so fucking, like, in my opinion, it's so deep, the whole album. Like, it has a lot of layers. Omnium Gatherum always been that kind of band that has a lot of layers in a sense, like a straightforward kind of music, but there's a lot of like for a person to ingest and digest in a sense, and Origin is a prime example for that kind of like our music. Our next album, well, we have demoed like 4 songs now, so it's gonna be a continuation, but it's gonna be different.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
for sure.
Pretty much answered one of my next questions, so thanks. Yeah.
No worries.
Yeah, but tell me about like making Origin, because during the whole pandemic, I know it kind of really fucked up the whole music industry and everything, and a lot of bands would like almost channel that sort of energy. When making Origin, did you wanted to sort of like did like the pandemic at all like influence like the sound of Origin sonically, or do you try to keep that completely separate?
I would say like we try to keep it. Of course, like we tried to keep it separate, but I don't know if we succeeded in that, in a sense, because I think those kinds of influences are force majeure, and you can't like really stop them if they really go into the music. But there was no conscious effort or trying to keep the whole situation separate from the. But I think, like, like we wanted to be free of those kinds of chains, like also those kinds of shackles that this would influence us. Maybe it did a bit, but I think like the album would have been similar whether or not there would have been a pandemic.
Yeah, and it was also the first album with a new rhythm section. You got Miko Kavisto and Ate Te on bass and drums. Did they bring in something new new rhythmically to Omnium Gatherum that they didn't have previously?
Well, Atte is one of the best like drummers I've met. Like like technically and groove wise. So that helped. Like Tuomo was a great drummer, but Atte has a more. He's better groove wise in a sense. He has his musical thing, rhythm thing going on in his blood. So that helps. Mikko also is an experienced player. Played in Pain Confessor and a couple of other bands, like many years. So and he like he's a like if you compare Mikko to our previous bass players for like Erkki, for example, Erkki is a really good technical player in a sense, but Mikko is more like a metal bass player, and you can really hear it live nowadays when we play that Mikko's like contribution to our band is it's like rough and like good in that sense that I love like those kinds of technical things that a bass player can do with his instrument. And Mikko does some of those things here and there, but he mostly plays metal bass. How metal bass should be played, like with it's fucking metal, so play that bass.
Yeah. And then of course,
So it helped a lot. Like with those, it was like OG has had a lot of like lineup changes, but like I think like we have a best people at the moment. Like for like I love to play with this group.
yeah. And then of course, like you've like with like this time I saw you on that album cycle, you did that tour with Black Crown Initiate and Elysia. And I remember for sort of interviewing you and Marcus at the Atlanta show because I think I was like the only time I've ever seen you headline because I see you play like direct support or opening and stuff. So how
Yeah.
do you like to prefer to like headline or do you prefer to be like direct support or opening?
Well, if you're a headliner, you have more songs to play. I love that. That's for sure. But in general, I don't care so much. If the package is good, if there's a good crowd, if people are enjoying themselves, I don't care.
Yeah.
The only thing I care about for headlining is that we can play more songs.
Yeah.
A longer set.
Yeah. And you have like so many albums out now. Does it get like harder to put like a set list every time you do a tour?
Well, we try to vary. We've been kind of lazy in that sense to vary songs because we know which kinds of songs we like kind of have to play on each set on each tour. But we've been trying to like now brisk up ourselves in that sense to pick more songs. I would love to play some like The Return, for example. We haven't played that song live since like 2010 or 11 or something like that. It would be great to bring that song back to the set, for example.
Yeah. Yeah, and you always have like those diehard like Omnium Gatherum fans that want like the deepest cut from like Spirit and August Light. So there's always the fans that would always want the deeper cuts, but also want to hear newer stuff. So do you try to like find like the balance in between?
Yeah, we do. We really do. But it's kind of like like you said, like there are so many albums, so it's kind of challenging at times. But we try to do like have some variation. Like for example, we introduced a couple of songs that we didn't play before. Like in the last North American tour, we played Planet Scale, which we haven't played like maybe once before, or maybe not even that once. I'm not sure because there's been a lot of shows, but that was kind of refreshing in a sense.
Yeah. And then I want to talk about, of course, your latest release, the Slasher EP, which I thought was good. I know it had like two songs, Sacred and Lovelorn, from the Origin recording session. So how did the idea of that come to be to sort of like release an EP?
Well, we had this idea that now we're going to do this EP because we really want to have some time before the next album. But we also wanted to have some material to be released before before the next album, and we have the origin session songs, and then we decided to do the Maniac, and of course we wanted to introduce Nick as a player. Like
Yeah.
Nick's been playing since 2022 on that tour, and we wanted Nick to have the opportunity, like for an official release, to play with us in an official release before the next album.
Yeah, because I was asking like Ate and Marcus and Miko about it. Because how does that sort of like affect like the chemistry within Omnium Gatherum, being like the band's mostly based in Finland, and of course like Nick being in America. So how does that sort of like affect sort of like the dynamic and chemistry within the band?
Well, chemistry-wise, it doesn't affect that much because on tours it's the most when we see each other in general. Like we live in Finland, but you know, we try to see each other, but of course people have lives, so and we are living in different cities, and so that affects too. So in that sense, Nick is just living a bit further away. So I think he's a cool guy and excellent player. So I don't think there's a problem with that at all.
Yeah.
Like today we can like for a long time we've been able to send demos. Like it doesn't matter like where you are. So in that kind of musical sense, it doesn't matter either.
Yeah. And then tell me about the Maniac cover, which was done by Michael Sembello. So what made you guys decide to cover that song in particular?
Well, I think it was Marcus's idea. Like, you know, we usually try to, with those covers, we try to do different kind of stuff. Like we've been doing like Rush and Sepultura and Infected Mushroom, and back in the day before my times there was Megadeth and AC/DC, and also we did a Death cover with me, and I think they did a Death cover like back in the day also. So basic idea is to do different kind of stuff and different kinds of songs. And I think like Marcus said something like, if I remember correctly, that like he heard that song somewhere and started to think that actually this song, this like melody, this rhythm is kind of like a Omnium Gatherum song, like hidden in a pop song in a sense. So like, you know, those riffs would turn into metal riffs and those melodies quite nicely, and I think they did. That's basically that was the idea. I think that's how it went.
Awesome. And so I kind of in the end to wrap things up, I know you mentioned before that you started demoing for the next On Your Gathering album. So what's next for you guys in terms of tours and stuff?
Well, we're gonna do that Inso Hinayana OG tour in January in Europe. We're gonna go to Japan in September, and after that we're gonna focus on demoing some more new stuff. Hopefully go to the studio late 24, early 25, somewhere there. So it's gonna be busy. Like I said, we have kind of like maybe 4, 5-ish songs now more or less ready, but time flies and runs. So we have to be diligent and hardworking and stuff like that. So basically a little bit of touring and a lot of thinking about the new album. So
Awesome.
Because we're gonna definitely release it next year. We're
Awesome.
not gonna wait another year, man.
Totally. So thank you, Jukka, for this conversation. It's great to now have like 2/3 of On Your Gathering. I'm hoping to get like the other guys. I just need Nick and Oppo. So it's just any final words you want to say to the viewers that are watching this to close this out?
Well, like I said, new stuff is coming, and as a metal family, it is always a good thing. We're there for you. You are there for us. So see you on the road. Peace
Awesome.
and love, metal.
Awesome. So everybody, Jukka from Omnium Gatherum, and we'll see you next time.